Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Pastor Layce.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome back to Tuesday Tune-Up. Glad to be with you guys again on this wonderful Tuesday at noon. I had a good time last week at family camp. We had a few quick shout-outs from Pastor Sheldon McGorman, our superintendent in North Dakota, and then also Pastor Albert Lautenschlager from out west in North Dakota stopped by this stream and said hello to our church. So we're happy to have you all with us today. Whenever you're watching, whether it be live right now or later today or, 20 years in the future, I don't know. Maybe you're watching this right now and it's post-rapture. You ever thought about that? I do. That's a weird thought, isn't it?
Yes.
If the internet still exists after that, I don't know, whatever. Moving on. That's a whole other conversation. I'm going to get weird if I keep following that shape. I know it's stupid. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, we're here today for Tuesday Tune-Ups. Of course, this is our summer-long sort of series on the call of God. We're spending the summer during these Tuesday Tune-Ups talking about the call of God, how to recognize it, things like that. We have one person in the house. Tammy Hendrickson's here. Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
How you doing back there?
I'm great.
Wonderful. Yeah, she's in the very back row. So, well, I'm going to just open up today. I'm going to do just a brief recap of the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to turn over to Pastor Layce to share our new teaching for this week. Again, our goal with these is twofold. One is just to encourage you and challenge you in the middle of the week. But along with this, we want to help you identify and fulfill the call of God for your life. Here's what we believe as a church. And that is just true biblically, is that God has a call for your life. Now, sometimes you hear people say, God's got this big, gigantic call for your life. Like we almost put the expectation in people's heads that everybody's called to be Billy Graham. Turns out there's only one Billy Graham, and he died a few years ago. But we're all called to be what God's called each of us to do. And our goal as a church is to help you identify those things, follow those things, and fulfill God's call for your life, whether it be to be a worldwide televangelist like Billy Graham, or perhaps he's calling you to be a local janitor who reaches people right around you. All of those areas are incredible calls that God has for each of us individually, and the goal is to find out what it is. So just to recap the last few weeks, We've talked the first week, we talked about Pastor Layce shared her testimony, and I taught that God's call is for us as a call to go. If you look in Genesis chapter 12, you'll find the call of Abraham, and God said, go to a nation I will show you later, a land I'll show you later. And Abraham's call was to go somewhere he didn't know about, to go somewhere he didn't recognize. And God called him, but Abraham had to respond to the call of God. And the Bible tells us that a few verses after the call of God, it says, and Abraham went. It is our job to hear the call of God and respond and go. If God can call you as loud and clear, but if you don't respond and go, you're missing something there. And so God's call is free to go. Excuse me. And then the next week, I shared my testimony, and Pastor Layce taught out of the story of 1 Samuel of David. David was called by God as a young man to be king. He was anointed as a young man to be king. And Pastor Layce pointed out that it took years between the anointing by Samuel to be king and him becoming king to actually come to fruition. I said in the first week, the call of God is to go. Sometimes that call is to go ahead and wait for a while. The call of God it takes patience. If David had been impatient and tried to force his way through, he would have missed something great that God had for him. And so you need to be patient in the call of God. And then last week, we kind of talked for a few minutes about kind of how do we identify the call of God? How do we know the call of God? And I talked about in our video last week that the call of God and the purpose of God for your life often mixes and meets where passion meets skill set. What are you passionate about and what skills do you have? Find where those two cross, and very often you'll find the call of God for your life. I mentioned that you need both passion and skill. If you have passion and no skill, well, you're not going to do much. I think about myself. I gave two examples of my own life. I have a passion for music. I love music. I love listening to music. I love hearing music. Believe it or not, I love singing, but I'm really bad at music. I have no skill, Layce. My voice is like, I say this all the time. I tell people my voice is like a dying coyote in a trash compactor. It just sounds real rough. But I have no skill, but passion. And so if you give me a microphone on stage and have me sing for worship, youth group or at kids church or right here, it's not going to be a real pretty sound. It might be a joyful noise to the Lord's ears, but nobody else's ears. So passion is not enough. There must be skill there too. And then also I talked about that you need skill, not just passion. Oh no, I'm sorry. You need passion, not just skill. If you have no passion but a skill, you can almost do more damage than good in a certain location. So again, my example in my own life is I have learned in the last 5.5 years doing Momco kids care for our Momco ministry during the fall and winter months that I have a skill to help to be with kids. I can help little kids and then make them comfortable when they come to a nursery, whatever. I have a skill there, but I have no passion. I don't dislike kids. I mean, there's little Talia down here. She's our little office pal here. And I have 2 kids myself. I love people's kids. I love that we have kids. I love kids are a thing. But if I had to be a kids ministry, if I had to do your job on Sunday mornings all the time, I would lose my mind. And if I had to be in the nursery every week, I would lose my mind. It wouldn't be good. It's important that both passion and skill meet. And where you find those is where you'll find the purpose of God. Now, those are the first few weeks. You can find these messages on our YouTube page, and you can look and listen to those and kind of recap those yourself. So that's kind of a recap of the last 3 weeks. And now I'm going to turn over to Pastor Layce. She's going to take us to our next portion of our lesson and our teaching on the call of God. So Pastor Layce, the floor is yours, or the table is yours, I guess.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great recap of the last few weeks of things we've been talking about. And like Pastor Matt said, you can look at our YouTube page to look at previous teachings. And something I'd like to say is if you go back and look at the first one, you'll see where I shared my testimony of how I got called into ministry and how I got here to Grafton. And you'll see there that I'm all for kids ministry. I'm passionate about that. That's where my skill set is. But when I was in college, the senior year, starting to try to figure out where God wanted me to go after I graduated, I was really like, okay, God, just call me. I'm here. I'm available. I'm open. And I was all for kids ministry. I'm going to find a kids pastor position. This is going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Kids ministry all the way. And as I began to interview for different positions at different churches around the Midwest, I was only doing things for kids. If they asked me about youth, I was very like, oh, yeah, no, I'm a kids ministry major. That's what my passion skill set are. It's my major. But God obviously had not another plan, but he challenged me to try something new. He challenged me to try something new and to step into something I was not originally super comfortable in doing. He, brought me to Grafton. God did. He brought me here to visit before I said yes to coming here. My Go Trip team at Trinity came here to visit to do a little bit of explaining what our Go Trip is and asking for support. And I was on that team. And so I came here to visit this church. That was even after Pastor Matt and Brianna had talked to me about this position. And so it was like totally a God thing that I came here to visit before I even said yes. And again, I talked with Pastor Matt, and he was like, yes, the position here is for both youth and kids. And so I was like, oh, for youth too? It's been over 4 years at that point that I had done youth ministry, anything with youth kids. And I was like, that is incredibly intimidating. That means I'm not coming here. And I guess that's what I thought in my mind, because I'm like, I excluded that because I was like, that's not my calling. That's not, my passion or skill set is not in that area. But obviously I was walking up and down this aisle when I was visiting here, and I felt the peace of the Lord settle upon me. And God told me, Layce, you're supposed to come here. This is your home. This is going to be your church. This is where I'm calling you. And I was like, okay, Lord, I told you I was available. I told you I'd say yes to the call. And so now I'm being challenged to actually do that. And so I said, okay, Lord, I have no idea what this is going to look like. And I'm honestly uncomfortable and being stretched and out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, take that step, and to step into now also being a youth pastor. And I knew that I had the skill set to do it. I knew that God had put the leadership skills in my life and had matured me, and I knew how to actually interact with youth students, even though they intimidated me at the when I first said yes. And but I knew God had given me the skill set, but the passion side was not necessarily there at first. And I was like, okay, God, you called me. I'm saying yes. And I started the youth ministry here Pastor Matt actually did previously, but I relaunched it. How about
Can I just add how thankful I am she came? And I think the youth kids are too. I was so bad.
No. Oh my gosh, but I relaunched the youth ministry and just got to know the kids, did a few youth conventions, a few camps with them. And I began to actually develop a passion for youth ministry, which if you had told me a few years ago that would be where I'm at now, I would have been so surprised. But all this to say that being uncomfortable and saying yes to the call of God sometimes come hand in hand. Those two things can happen, and it can stretch you, and it can challenge you to try something new, to take a step into youth ministry, and you might actually see, wow, I actually have a passion for this. You might not know what all of your passions are yet, and God might continue to develop things in your life that become your passions, where that meets your skill set, and that is the calling that God has for your life. And so again, like Pastor Matt said at the beginning, this is to encourage you in your own life and in your own walk, but also to help you identify the call that God has on your life, and for you to then, once you identify that, to fulfill and follow that call that God has on your life. So use my story as an example. Use Pastor Matt's stories he previously shared about singing and nursery as examples of try new things. You might try singing and you might be really bad at it, and you might not be your passion, but you tried it. You took that step in a direction. You did something. And you might be like me, where you take a step into youth ministry and you find, I actually am passionate about this. I love youth. I love the students. I love having those hard conversations and discussions about things they're feeling inside or things they're seeing at school. How do we navigate through that? You might just have to try something new to begin to discover new passions and new skill sets in your life, because God has specifically placed things in your life for you to walk into, and it might be things that you are discovering new all the time. And so, yeah. Do you have anything to add, Pastor Matt?
Yeah, that's just so good. I mean, that's just such a good testimony of doing something. The question to ask yourselves, and even ourselves, even as pastors, as leaders, is like, when is the last time we tried something different that maybe God's calling us towards? I think it's a good question. And for those of you listening, when is the last time you did that? When is the last time you tried something new or tried something at all that God is asking you to do? And maybe for some of the people listening, it's going back to what God's put on your heart before. Maybe some of you had tried something, felt passionate, had a skill there, but for whatever reason you left that and you stopped doing it. Now there's times God calls us on, so that if there's times that God's not calling you back to the same thing, but maybe there's something that's been in your heart that you've kind of forgotten about, or kind of stopped caring about, or kind of left behind thinking, I'm done with this anyway. Maybe it's God's calling you back to that, to say, okay, your passion and skill met here. Why aren't we doing this anymore? A lot of reasons. I mean, there's probably many reasons people kind of step away from something, right?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, fear, or someone maybe putting them down in that area, or even like failure, or failures happen, and sometimes they can shut down what you think that, like, I don't know, it can be a block in the way from God's calling in your life. Like, you have to sometimes break through that or navigate through that church hurt, maybe even too. As well. Yeah,
I think for sure. I think that those are things that can kind of push you aside from the call that God has in you. So I would just encourage you to revisit old things that maybe God put in your heart. Now, I don't mean old, like we're not going back to the 1970s and doing something he did then, but I mean, what did God push in your heart? Maybe God had a passion in your heart. I hear very often from people who went to Bible college years ago, who felt a call from God years ago to go into ministry, how to be missionaries, and they didn't do it. So the question is, that call, I don't know did you watch last week? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry about it. It doesn't matter if you did or not. Don't answer that question. I'm sorry. But last week, Pastor Sheldon jumped on the stream last week for just a brief minute. And I said, Pastor Sheldon, can you give me just 30 seconds on the call of God? And he said, and it was awesome. First of all, the dude's got a voice that it was awesome. He's got the beard. It's like a holy beard almost, So Pastor Sheldon's watching. Just know I called your beard holy today. But he said the call of God is irrevocable, meaning the call of God echoes on. So if you felt called 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago to go be a missionary, to be a pastor, to do something for God, and you didn't do it for whatever reason, whether it be fear, whether it be failure, whether it be some other reason, the call of God is irrevocable. Answer the call. And I'll say this too. And maybe we'll probably need to conclude this. I don't know if you guys have something else more to add, but we're going to all die one day. Do you know stats say that 10 out of 10 people die? There's only 2 people that didn't die, but 10 out of 10 people die other than Enoch and Elijah, but everybody else is going to die. So the thing to challenge yourself with, I want to challenge you with is do some of the call of God before it's too late. God's calling you. So what is he calling you to do today? I want to encourage you to find out where passion meets skill, find out to try something. So today, this week, try something new. Our challenge is to look for something new to try. With that, anything else you want to add, Pastor Layce?
No.
All right. Thank you for joining Tuesday Tune-Up. We'll see you guys shortly on Sunday morning for more of what God's got for this church. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. God bless you. And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Now I'll walk awkwardly to the background of the stream. So you can just watch Tally and Pastor Layce for a second.